Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Alex Buriak. I'm the Senior Vice President over at Jet Lending. And today, we're going to go over how, when you're using hard money as debt, okay, how do you understand it to negotiate better, to calculate your profits better, so you guys can buy properties better, understanding how your financing works, okay? So as an investor, it's really, really important. One, that money is never the issue. Okay, that is the easiest part of the game, and this is why I'm doing this live for you guys, so you guys can actually comment, ask me questions live. I'll answer them live for you. Okay, so we're going to go over how to structure a deal, okay, using hard money. And the reason why I'm doing that is if you guys can do these simple math equations in your head or on a piece of paper, something like you're looking at wholesale deals, you're walking properties on your own, you guys are skip tracing, whatever you're doing to get properties in the pipeline, okay. If you can understand this, you'll know exactly how much you can buy properties for. And so you guys can negotiate better, because you guys know now most of your offers should be a hard and firm no when you first make it, because that means you guys start negotiating. Okay. You ever offer a property and they're like, yeah, I'll do that. You're like, oh, I bought it for less. So understanding the math of your debt, your hard money debt, your loan, is going to be really, really important as you guys try to buy more properties, okay? So I'm actually going to pull up a calculator here, and I'm going to actually go through some numbers for you so you guys can really, really see, because there's always some misconceptions on the debt of hard money, okay? So I'm going to show my screen here and get to work. All right. So just a quick calculator. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at everything. You guys got an idea about a property, okay? So first thing we will always talk about is the purchase price. Why we're doing this math to figure out what we need to buy it for. Because remember, you can't change the after repaired value, okay? The market dictates that. You're not going to change how much the property is going to be the cost to repair it for. The market dictates that, and the condition of the property dictates that. The only variable that you can control is purchase price. Profits are made at purchase, not sale. Okay. You can recover a little bit if the ARV is off. You can recover just a little bit if the repairs are off. What you can't recover is a bad purchase. Okay. That is almost unrecoverable. All right. So that's why I'm kind of teaching you guys about how we structure loans, so you guys can go out there and negotiate better on knowing how much out-of-pocket costs you need, all these things. Okay, so let's pick something common for this market today. All right, so let's say you're buying a property for $200,000. Okay, let's say this property is going to be worth $350,000 after it's fixed up. Let's say this is a pretty banged up place. Okay, so let's say at the current price per square foot today is about $30 to $40 a square foot for the interior portion of the property for renovation. So that means it doesn't include any exterior work, roof, foundation, well and septic, or HVAC. All right. So let's say it's a 2,500 square foot property. I got my handy dandy calculator here. 2,500 times $30 a square foot. That's $75,000. That's a good number to know when you're out there looking at properties, okay? Because if you don't know how to analyze renovation, use a $20 to $30 square foot number. 40 for more luxury type of things. It can even go north of that depending on the appliances you pick. But 30 more regular median type of properties, $200,000, $300,000 properties, okay? So we got a $75,000 repair budget. Let's do 35 with $350,000 in the area. Well, this is $350,000. Let's call it 3.5% on taxes. So let's say it's $12,250 in taxes. All right. So at Jet Lending, your origination can go out the door as low as 2% and as high as 4%, depending on the risk of the property, the risk of the borrower, things like that. Now, we're not credit based. Okay. So if you have a really, really low credit score, you're higher risk. But if the collateral is good, we can still do it. Okay, so you may be higher in points or rate, but we can still get your deal done. let's pick the middle-ish. All right, so let's say it's 3 points. Let's say it's like 11.9%. Okay, interest-only payments without any penalty for early payoff. You want to be in my loan for 4 days, 4 days interest. Great. All right, so I'm going to hold that $75,000 in escrow. What does that mean? That means that money that I'm putting in escrow is in an account waiting for you, okay? For when you do complete the work, I inspect it and give you that money back. So you net zero on repairs, all right? So how loans work. When you guys hear origination fee, that's this number, 3% times the total loan, okay? So that is the $7,350 total, origination. You got to pay for your legal docs at closing, okay? It's a pass-through. Our attorney charges us $375 for closing. Remember, you only pay that on the settlement statement. There's no upfront fees at Jet, okay? We actually even estimate title because there is a title fee. It has nothing to do with your lender, but any lender you close with title, there's a title fee. We usually use about 1.5 as the estimate. We're not going to know the number until we get the settlement statement, but we like to estimate it because you could be $0 out of pocket on these deals, okay? So I want to know everything. Processing, any lender's processing fees is like pool and flood certs and all the docs for the property and all that kind of stuff like that. So it's $11.50, kind of low end to comment on lending. All right, so right there, if you add all those numbers up, that's $12,550. What your out-of-pocket cost is $42,550. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to do that. All right, but I'm going to show you why. This is how the math works. Okay, when you guys are using hard money and buying property, so you guys can negotiate better. 70% of 350 is 245. Okay. But I fund at closing $245 minus the $75,000 that I have to hold in repairs. So I can only fund $170 at closing. Well, you're buying it for $200. Alarm should already go off in your head that say, uh-oh, I already out of pocket $30,000 to meet the difference plus my closing costs. And that's what it is. It's the $12,550 plus 30 is $42.50. So how do we fix that? Okay. When you're using a loan-to-value lender like Jet Lending, you fix it by changing the purchase price, okay? So the purchase price, if I moved it to every dollar amount underneath the 170, I can roll in. So you can see if I bought this at 170, my out-of-pocket cost is my closing cost because I'm funding 170 at closing and you're buying it for 170. Now, if I bought it for 160, I'm out of pocket $2,500 because I can roll in $10,000 of your closing costs. Okay. If I bought it for $157.5, $50, $156. It's green, means zero out of pocket. If you're working with Jet and you're doing a cash out refinance, that's every dollar I can give you at closing if you already own the property. I do that for a lot of people that buy the tax sales and things like that. They buy in cash and they get refinanced out to go buy it the next month. All right. So how much money do you need to close on a deal like this? Well, you need to show, and I'll change this here because it's an old calculator here. You have to just be good at Excel. All right. I'm looking at 3 things. For every loan that you do, you could be in 1 loan at Jet. You can be at 20 loans at Jet all at once if you have 3 things for each property. Okay. First thing I need to see is that you have 1/3 of the renovation budget. All right. So right there, I'm going to need to see $25,000. I need to know that you have enough money to start the work, get some of the work done, and call for inspection to reimburse your work. I got to know that you got to have at least 6 months of interest payments. So I know that you have the money to keep making your payments as you do the property. Okay, so you're safe in the loan. The next thing I got to do is any out-of-pocket cost at closing. Well, this one here, you're not coming out of pocket at closing. So I just needed to see the 6 months and the third of the repairs. But if you went back and bought it for $200,000, you got to make sure that you have enough to come to closing. So you need $88,000. So that's how the math works at this. It's all about leveraging the risk, okay? And is the borrower going to be okay? Because we don't want to take the property back. We are not an acquisition lender. We don't like it. We don't want it. We have a less than 2% default rate over the last 21 years. Okay, we don't like it. So we want to make sure you are making money. Why? Because when a borrower makes money, they buy more properties. How do I make more money? I make more money lending to borrowers that want more properties. It's win-win. Both parties have to be making money. So if I went back to 156 purchase price and the $0 out of pocket, looks like it's a pretty good deal. Now let's see if it maps out to your profit margins. And this is another thing that gets a little bit of investors. You can't just go and say, well, I sold it for $350, so my loan was $245, so I'm making $101,000. No, you're not. Okay, and let me show you why. All right, so I want you guys to look at net profit. All right, when we look at the days on market, and we look at how long the renovation is going to take. So that was $75,000 in renovations, right? Call it $7,500 a week. So 75,000 divided by 7,500, that's about 10 weeks. Okay, so that's about 2.5 months. So you're in rehab for 2.5 months right there. Okay, that's if everything goes right. And if you guys have renovated the property, you guys know that most likely there's going to be a hiccup, permits or something happened. Flooring guy ain't in yet, whatever. So call it 3 months. Okay, 3 months in renovations. Okay, and that's still probably being a little generous. But let's call it 3 months, and then let's just say it took you 3 months to sell. So I want you to think this way. I got 6 months in the loan. I got to pay myself back 6 months of utility bills. Call it $200 a month. You got guys in there cutting wood, AC's on after the flooring's in, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so you got to pay yourself back 6 months of utility bills. You got to pay yourself back selling the property if you're using an agent. So let's play 6%. Most likely, the seller, meaning you, is going to pay the second closing cost when you sell the property if you're flipping it. Call that about $5,250, okay? Because that is about 1.5%, which is pretty customary on the second closing cost of title. All right, you got to pay yourself back 6 months of every monthly payment you paid your lender. Okay, you got to pay yourself back your initial closing costs. At this time, it was 0, but we're going to change the numbers again, just so you guys can see how the math works. Let's say this property didn't have an HOA and you weren't doing a seller's commission or a seller's contribution, and you sold it for $350. In 6 months, you would walk away with $58,297.50 if you bought it at $156. But let's say you're struggling, okay, and you don't know, how much can you buy it for? But let's say you bought it for $170. You bought it for $170, and you still sold it in 6 months. Now you're making $44,000. Okay, because you have to pay yourself back that $12,550 that you initially put in at origination. Okay, let's say the market softened and you held it for 10 months. Now you're making $29,000 because you have to pay yourself back. Your net profits is about $29,000. Okay, all right. Let's say you were feeling saucy and you want to come out of pocket a little bit more, $180. All right. Now you're out of pocket $22,000 at closing, and you're only making $19,000 in 10 months. Is that enough money to make in 10 months to keep your business going? Sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. It all depends on what your business strategies are and how much profit you need to make to keep buying inventory to keep this process going. Okay? So when you are working with a hard money lender, and you are having to negotiate properties, it's really important that you guys understand how your lender lends, because it's a key strategy on how you have to buy it with the relative risk of how long it's going to take to repair and how long it's going to take to sell the property. So as you have these ideas in mind, a lot of people forget to think about their profit when they're buying and how they need to buy it and how the property is going to perform in renovations and sales. Okay, so I hope this has a really help of what could be and how you could structure your deals if you're coming $0 out of pocket, if you're coming some money out of pocket, if you're a landlord and you don't care about coming out of pocket because it's the appreciation you're holding, whatever it is, whatever your strategy is on acquisitions, understanding the debt is a very important part when you're trying to structure how you're buying it. Because the first thing that you're going to look at is how much money am I coming out of pocket? What is my projected profit if I did X? Okay, so that's why we do these videos and that's why we do all this education. Because if you guys are in the know on how you are positioning this property against how you're leveraging it with money, with hard money, with lending, you guys will close really fast because we close in 3 days from clear closing title. Okay. We don't have a lot of room for error. So that is why I'm going over this math. So when you guys are out there, you know if you can swing the bat on this deal or not. So you can negotiate effectively and fully. My advice to you is to get pre-approved at Jet. Go to jetlending.com and get pre-approved. If you guys are in the area, and for on Wednesday, the 21st, or really any third Wednesday of the month, come see us at our super investor meeting. I just put it in the comments. If you want to get really good education from Eddie Gant and Steve Davis at Total Wealth, they're going to be on the stage every third Wednesday. If you guys are really, really liking this educational content, I invite you to come to our Saturday all-day class from 8 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, where we go over everything. How to structure a deal, how to write a TREC contract, how to manage a GC, how to do everything from managing your property leads to selling effectively and increasing your profits. That is this link I just put in there, the real estate mastery class. We have it every quarter. For our circle of investors that like to learn and like to scale their business. I hope this helped, and get with me with any questions. Me and my team here at Jet, we will show you how to get this done, how to negotiate appropriately, and how to really maximize leveraging hard money loans and increasing your profit. I hope you're having a great day and happy hunting out there for your next great investment property.